You are listening to CKLN.FM. I'm your host, Joel Dick, and we're here with an all-star panel to discuss women and the labor movement in Ontario and more generally in Toronto specifically. We are joined by Nancy Pridham, Regional Vice President for OPSEU. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning, Joel.
So we're also joined by Colleen Costa, who's a Steward Coordinator for CUPE 4400, the education workers here in Toronto. Good morning, Colleen.
Good morning, Joel.
And we are joined by Jennie Ernewein, co-founder of the Toronto Young New Democrats. Good morning, Jennie.
Good morning.
Bonnie Downey of CUPE, which is the postal workers, had also hoped to join us this morning, but unfortunately her duties as a shop steward have called her away, so she won't be with us. Good morning, everybody, and I'm going to jump right into it, and hopefully we can just have a bit of a conversation here this morning. But my first question is the very subject of the panel that we've put together here a bit offensive? Should we ever separate out one group from the larger labor movement? Is focusing just on women, segregating the concerns of women in the labor movement, is that maybe a little bit offensive, or is that an appropriate thing to be doing? Do we need to talk about the special challenges faced by women and faced by women in the labor movement? Colleen, why don't you take it away for us?
Thank you, Joel. I definitely agree. I think women in the labor movement, we have a history of strong women working. The only shortfall I feel is that women who are working 2, 3, 4 jobs just to make ends meet with no benefits is something that we have to work harder to make sure people have decent wages, decent benefits, a proper pension to retire with dignity. And women should talk more about it, and that's why we're here today.
I think the complexities of women's lives today add to that difficulty in juggling. So sometimes they're single parents, sometimes they're going to school, sometimes, again, as Colleen has said, they're working 2 and 3 part-time jobs. And so we have to talk about the kind of struggle and the barriers, actually, that are in place for women's participation in the labor movement. Even to go a step farther, to talk about women who are in the labor movement, and you're talking to 3 today, we could all talk about the struggle to get where we are in terms of our own organizations. And so I am the affirmative action seat within my organization, so really proud to be there. So I'm the highest ranking female, and that I think is really important because it gives me an opportunity to talk about what's important, I think, for women in the labor movement.
I think the ultimate goal of the labor movement is unity. But oftentimes, to be able to achieve unity, we have to look at the structural inequalities that often lead into the divide and rule of us. We know that in society, we have a long way to go still in terms of fighting against sexism, racism, homophobia, and so forth. And historically, we know the role of women has been horribly oppressed. And the best way that we can address this is to look at historically and currently what is still continuing to this day. We know that we are now in an era of huge austerity, and we see Rob Ford playing a leading role on that. And we also know that women are going to be the hardest hit, as well as youth, as well as students, but women in particularly. So we do need to look at the particularities of the issues that women face, but with the ultimate goal of unity, and men definitely play a big role in us achieving that.
Just picking up on Jennie's segue, and I think it's the perfect one. We know we're facing a period of austerity. We're facing a Stephen Harper-led federal government. We're facing a Mayor Ford-led city government intent on laying off workers and shrinking government. What does that mean for women both inside and outside of the labor movement when we're facing this era of austerity? We're looking at cuts to vital public services such as libraries, public health, education, childcare. Does that have a particular impact on women both inside and outside of the labor movement? Colleen, you started last time, so Nancy, why don't you start this time?
I think it places a greater pressure upon women. Again, I talked earlier about the delicate balance or the juggling act, and so what you're looking at is a greater risk of unemployment to women. So, those 2 and 3 jobs, they could disappear, and what does one do then? You talk about sometimes that right now they've got this program within the college sector, the second career program, and so there's lots of folks who've already lost their job, or lots of women who've lost their job who are in this program, except they're graduating from this program to no job. And so it's difficult now. I can't envision a city that says that 17,000 workers could lose their jobs, and we know that a majority of those people will be women. If the labor movement, if women in the labor movement, where we see good jobs with pensions, with benefits, for the most part, if those jobs disappear, the impact on folks who don't have a union, immigrant women, it's absolutely going to be enormous.
I want to first start off by saying that women care about politics. I saw an article in the Globe and Mail the other day about the Liberal ads against Hudak. And what I found very interesting about it was they were talking about how the Liberal ads were trying to appeal to women voters by talking and critiquing Hudak's personality more so than his policies. And I found that right out offensive. In fact, that told me that the Liberals and the Conservatives do not have a clue about women voters and the issues that matter to them. Women's lives are political, even more so, and they care about bread and butter issues. They care about housing, they care about childcare, they care about education, and they care about having good jobs, and so forth. And so it's very, very important that politics and policies impacting their lives are at the forefront. And this is where I feel that with the labor movement, I mean, everything that makes life bearable, the fact that women have political rights, the fact that we have social services, and even more so, the fact that women have access, or hopefully will continue to have good access to good jobs, enables them to live independently. And that is so important. So this is what's at risk when we talk about austerity. And this is also where I feel that the labor movement can step up our game and really make sure that these issues are at the forefront of the struggle.
Hi there. I do want to say in regard to women, I belong to CUPE Local 4400. We have over 12,000 members. Toronto education workers, we have women who are working in human resource centers where a lot of people have no idea that these jobs exist. And they're working, 3-4 hours a day, no benefits, nothing, and they're working 2-3 jobs, and this is part of the labor movement. They belong to a union, and when people come to us, when women come to us and say they're struggling in a daycare, that all they want is respect in the workplace. Please, come and help us. And this is what the labor movement does. We go out to the communities, we help different agencies or small locals where they're struggling with their employer. But I do want to address, number one, what is happening in our city right now. Our communities are falling apart. And what we're doing, women are the nurturing ones who are, what Jennie just said, the bread and butter. They're there for the children. They're there for childcare. They're there for the grocery shopping. They're paying the bills. They make sure that there's food on the table. They make sure that their children are involved in activities in the community. And again, when women are strong together, and of course with the help of our brothers, we get through this. And I was just at a summer camp yesterday at Ryerson Community School. I've never seen such proud parents and proud grandparents, and that's what we need. We need to build this city again.
It's perfect. You guys are always one question ahead of me on my sheet here with your answers. But, I'm not usually a big fan of arguments that sort of assign a set of attributes based on gender, the whole men are from Mars thing. But I do note women tend to vote for the NDP here in Canada. They tend to vote for the Democratic Party in the U.S. at a much higher rate than men do. Does that, and I think partly that has to do with the fact that women are often primary caregivers, either for children in their families or elderly members of their families. But is there a different political sensitivity that women generally have, just generally speaking, and do the political parties out there need to be taking a greater account of how to reach out to women voters when we talk about the kind of austerity and the kind of cuts we're facing in Canada and in Toronto right now? I guess, Jennie, you get to start this time.
I think what's really important in regards to your question is that, like I said earlier, women are political. And a lot of times the mainstream media likes to downplay that. They like to tell us that we care about who's the cutest leader, who is wearing the nicest tie, who has the best personality. And Joel, you just demystified that right there. Women are looking at which party represents their issues. And so when you just said that women are more likely to vote for the NDP or for the Democratic Party, this is saying that women are looking at which party best represents their issues. And let's also be very honest. Huge chunks of our population, majority of our population is working class. Women are working class. Women are working, women are involved not only in their jobs, but also have the double duty of taking care of their families and their children. And when we talk about the policies that are coming up, I mean, I heard that 2,000 childcare spaces are at risk of being lost. That's part of the KPMG report of the gravy that needs to be cut, or the gravy that needs to be stopped. And also I heard that over 900 TCHC properties, the homes, could be sold off as well. And who is this going to impact? This is going to impact women. And it's going to impact families and everybody and all the communities, but particularly women.
And just on that point, the TCHC houses, the last I saw, the proposal was to sell the capital assets to pay for 1 year's operating expense. And the insanity of that, someone said it's like burning the door off your house in your fireplace to stay warm, and then you don't have a door. So absolutely, I pick up on that, and I think, Jenny, you made the point. It does seem that women voters seem to get the survival of the species issues, right? They seem to get caring about more than just themselves. But is that just an artifact that we're seeing, or Colleen, Nancy, do you think there's something real there in how politicians need to reach out to women differently than they reach out to male voters?
Colleen and I are both like, okay. So Colleen, you go, sister.
Well, I'm gonna take this one. As a woman working with the Toronto District School Board, I'm working with CUPE Local 4400. I look at issues, we're trying to encourage women to get involved with politics, not just, become a politician, but to get involved. I work as an office administrator in an alternative schools, and it's amazing what we could teach our children in regard to politics and about caring, about decent wages, about having a proper collective agreement so there's no workplace harassment. And we are we're breaking down barriers as we move along, and women are getting involved in politics, but we are all activists. We're all sitting here together. We're activists. We're strong. I'm proud to be a CUPE 4400 worker, and I will keep on struggling to say, what is our message when it comes to the NDP? What is our message when it comes to the Harper government? We've seen it. We've seen it through the municipal elections, and now we're going to see it on October 6th. So we need to start telling stories, and I really strongly believe in the story of the story of us, the story of now, that the story of self, where we share our stories, we move together, and we say what's important.
Look, I'll just close by saying that I think it's been a long time that women have gotten over the notion that their job is to be in the kitchen and that their job is to be followers. In fact, I think that women are, in fact, moving forward in leaps and bounds and getting involved. And you know what? To say that we don't see what the issues are, or we're not really looking at the issues, are you kidding? I mean, the issues are the issues of the future. Our kids are tomorrow. And if you think that we don't pay attention to that, or we don't care about that, and so we don't look at policies and things that are in place for us so that we know that our kids are going to get something better in the future. All the women that came before us, they were thinking about us. They were thinking about what are those women going to endure in the future? What's the next wave? And I think that's where we are. And so don't be fooled. We can smell it, we can touch it, we can taste it, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about what's wrong with it.
And Joel, can I just add one more thing? With the Toronto Young New Democrats, we have over 100 members in the city. And we are probably one of the most successful of the youth clubs in the NDP, and we're very happy. And we're seeing a lot of citywide youth clubs starting to spring up in Hamilton, in London, in Ottawa, and many other places are starting to talk about it. And over about probably half of our membership is young women. And so a lot of times we are told that youth and women are, depoliticized. They don't care, they're apathetic. But we're seeing that we've created a club that talks about, we base ourselves on grassroots activism, on democratic principles, and we also talk about socialism. And I don't know if we have to specify or have a specific strategy to encourage young women. But when you start opening up, when you have a space, when you are able to actually have debates and discussions about access to free education, we've had memberships, and a lot of our young men have also talked about wanting to know about the issues of childcare and International Women's Day and wanting to get more involved. So we're seeing a lot of young people gravitate towards this. We have to be honest, we're still small and comparatively to like all the youth in Toronto, but this is a great microcosm of what can be achieved when we actually link our discussions, our debates with activism. And we're working on 2 campaigns with 2 amazing women, Sherry DeNovo in Parkdale High Park and Catherine Crow in Toronto Centre. So youth are very inspired to get involved, and we'll be pushing forth a lot of issues.